Welcome back to K&L Farms. I'm Ken. I hope this video finds you well. First of all, know that my family's hearts and prayers go out to the people that are affected by the on the East Coast on that hurricane. And I thought it would be appropriate to bring this to your attention. This is an off-grid standalone generator, and what it is. We'll go over the benefits, the pros and the cons to this for this generator, and then the hassle involved in the permitting process, and also the switch leg. Okay, before I get started on the pros and cons for this whole house generator and standby generator, I just got in the NOAA report, and I'll give you a glimpse right here.
Releasing its forecast for the winter season yesterday. Here's what we're looking at. A La Nina weather pattern off the coast of South America causing cooler than normal Pacific Ocean waters, and that has a big impact on the winter weather patterns across North America. In a La Nina winter, typically the northern parts of the United States and the Pacific Northwest are colder than normal, and that's what NOAA is forecasting.
Here you can kind of get an idea of what this winter is going to look like. Martin the cat just showed up, so I might have to say hello to him. And then we'll go into switch leg and permitting process around it. Now, no, I got the whole house generator for two primary reasons. And the whole house generator, the thing I enjoy about it, the reason I did it, was it's hooked to the grid, the main utility coming in. If the utility goes out, then the house, trying to get that cat up here, I can say hello. Then the house switches over automatically, and I did it for wildland fire, which we had one fairly close not that long ago, the wildland fire, and this runs the well, and the well provides water so that we could actually fight fire. If a utility pole catches on fire, or they shut down the utility grid, that's Martin. You've probably seen Martin before, but he wanted to come say hello, so he's going to probably be in the rest of the video. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, if the grid goes down for some other reason, we can actually run water in for firefighting. The other thing is your first concern for any sort of survival should be fresh drinking water. The other thing is, I was going to tell you, is that in fact, all of those stem on the fact that we still have a primary structure left. Those guys on the East Coast, I feel sorry for them, but if you don't have a structure left or that you can sustain life in, the generator would be gone and all this would be for nothing. But I don't rationalize that coming. Didn't rationalize that when I put it in. The other thing is I'm not promoting you go get a whole house generator or standby generator with 300 gallons of propane behind it and propane tanks and all that as a beginner in your preps. This is somewhere, you know, that you would think later on, much later on. And the other thing is, and we're going to have to go over it once I say, started out with just a standard generator, just a standard generator. I don't remember how big it was. It was, you know, fairly reasonable price, but in any case, the problem is with the generator is, one, it's not one-to-one. It's not an automatic system. You have to do some mechanical attachments to make it actually hook up to your house for your utilities. But the main concern, both in permitting and with the utility company, is say you do that. Say in my case with the whole house, or in some other cases where you have just a portable generator and you hook that up. The big threat was, and the switch leg, which I've said already, I think, is in fact that say you have a utility worker working on the power line and you're back feeding the power line, and that person can get injured by your whole house generator, even with this one. And that was the switch leg. The switch is actually, right now the switch is on utilities. You might have to excuse me for a minute because that cat doesn't want to leave me alone. But anyway, so the main power is coming in, and the switch, there's a mechanical switch that's switched off, and it's running into the house through that. The generator's not in the loop right now. And when the generator starts, the switch, the power goes out, it automatically goes up, shuts off, back feed to the utilities, and only feeds the house, because this mechanical switch inside there has switched so that a utility worker on the other end will not be affected by the house. They can do their work. Once their work's completed, they send power back through to the house. the switch leg won't let it. It senses that power. It's on, this would be the east side of my property. It's coming from that direction. It senses that. And the generator's still running, the house is still on the generator power. When that switches over, it shuts the power off, so the power can't backfeed, and shuts the generator off, and then the feed can go into the house just like normal. But you need some mechanical device to shut off the utilities so that you're not backfeeding to your utility people, so you're not injuring a utility people. That was the main concern that they did. They had to come and inspect quite a bit. And the other thing I had to do, I think you can actually see it. I may spin you so you can see it better. Okay, should be able to see it again fairly clearly. You have to label this. In fact, that's part of code is labeling this so that the utility people come, say I'm going on vacation or something and there's a problem. They come, see it's a meter base, this is a 400 amp meter base. This device came with that generator and had to purchase, and this is where the permit comes into play, and this is the switch leg. And it says fully automatic load bearing device. And you got to have a tag on here so that they actually see that this is an energy source. That's an energy source, so they don't get, if they come and they get creative and they're working on the box, switch leg senses there's no grid power, it starts up, back feeds into them, and they can get shocked. You don't want that. That's what that label's for. But remember, the primary role, either in a generator, a whole house generator, portable generator, is do not back feed into your utilities. You need to switch that portion of the power off. I do it automatically now, and it was fairly substantial in financial cost. But I do it so that those guys won't get injured. But if you had a portable in here and you hot wire in, I used to call it farming together when I did it. Farm together, make sure you shut off the utility, start your generator, run your house, power comes back on. Now, if you don't have an automatic switch, how I used to do it is I would check the meter. If the meter's turning, you got power coming to you. You would have to shut off your generator, switch back on your main power leg, and then go back on the grid. But that was the main thing that they were worried about when I actually installed. Okay, the cons on the generator is, number one, is noise. It's loud. It's loud enough that when it's running, I can't even sleep at night. So generally what we do is we let it run during the day, get the refrigerator, the freezer cooled off, get all of our water supplies done, and then I shut it off at night. It's pretty loud, and so that noise footprint, anybody in the area that hasn't done as many preps as promoting that you do, is they know where to go, and the dinner bell's ringing every time they hear this generator or a generator. It was one of them. I don't know, I didn't set them in a priority list. Number two, or I don't know if you go with number two, but next one is, in fact, it was expensive. I had to save up for years and years and years to be able to afford this, but it is very convenient if you can afford it, to put it in. And number three, not in any specific order, but permitting process. I'll give you an idea around the permitting process. Martin's back again. Permitting process was, in fact, when the guy came out to permit it, I had an illustration from the company on how to do it. That's how I got through it. I did it myself. I didn't hire it out. I hired none of this out. And if you're, somewhat competent in power, and you can save the money if you do it yourself. And remember, I'm cheap, so I did it myself. His response to me was he had never permitted a switch leg in his career and had been doing it for 20 years. So he did permit it, and he'd have to go back and check after I illustrated what I wanted to do. He had to go back, and then I had to make another appointment. And the problem with this generator, and every time he came out for an appointment, I had to have a utility worker here, because the utility worker had to shut off the transformer so utility power wasn't feeding in, because you got to hook that right into the main meter almost. And so I had to have it happened 3 times. I had a utility worker here. He would shut off the transformer. We would look and evaluate, and I would tell him what I needed to do, and then he would say, okay, he's got to go back, and he would go back and check it again, and then come back And the second time he came back, the utility workers here hadn't and shut off the power. I had made a mistake. I hooked it up incorrectly and he couldn't permit it that way. So then he went back, made another appointment. The utility worker went away. Utility worker came back. I had him shut the power off. The inspector was here. I had to hook two wires together, hook two wires onto the main bus bar for the meter. And the permitting person said, yes, you can do that. That's permittable. I hooked two wires up, tightened them down because the utility worker couldn't touch it. And then I hooked the two back together. He authorized it. The utility worker had to hear the permit officer say that he authorized it. Once he authorized it, we turned it on, and that was been years ago, and it's been working ever since. It works good. If you can afford one, it's well worth the security of you can travel and do what you want to do as a husband. If you want to go away for the weekend, you can be secured that your wife and my family, actually my family's on the same grid leg. My family is secure, and I don't have to be concerned about that. One time, I'll tell you a story though. One time I did go away. I went away. I was somewhere, and my wife and my daughter were here. And sorry about Martin, but he wants to say hello. My wife and my daughter were here, and the power went out, and the generator battery was dead. Now, normally, remember it was cold, several feet of snow then, it's cold. And the reason being, and I haven't done it yet, you could put a heater on there's a heating pad that the battery sits on that'll save the battery. But usually what is supposed to happen is the battery's on a trickle charger from the grid, and the battery should be charged up. And that occasion it was cold enough that the battery wouldn't turn it over, so I actually had to bring a tractor over, jump the battery to get the generator started. And once I jumped the battery, then shortly after that I bought a new battery and rehooked it back up. So ever since then it's been good. But that one time they did have to go without power. I think it took me almost a day to get home, but that's what I had for today.